Hello everyone, I've been looking at Vanish cap entry for 120 to see how hard it would be to do by hand. It turns out that as long as you can get good at single frame pause BLJs, it's actually not that precise at all in terms of speed and angle. You can set up a consistent angle, eyeball a position, and then do a set of inputs to get pretty much the exact same BLJ every time. This can still be developed further since it's not that precise and there might be easier setups, or runners can maybe even find their own setups that work better for them. But for now I want to show my setup with 3 different examples with varying speeds: slow, ideal, and absurd. Let's have a look. Alright, so ideally you'd be able to do the strat in under 15 seconds. But what would that actually mean for 120? Well, doing Vanish cap first actually allows you to do a lot of different things and requires a full reroute of the 120 route, all the way up to the second key door. I asked Circumark about this since he is much more experienced in reroutes and he did a very nice analysis for me. Please check out his video, link in the description. Roughly speaking, a 15-second VC entry saves about 15 seconds in 120 and completely removes the need for Lakitu skip and SBLJ. Now let's look at the setup in more detail, using the ideal version as an example. You make your way over to this corner in Mario Cam and you want to be landing while sliding on the steep slope on the other side of the grassy hill. The steep slope will push you out and put you into a free fall with the same speed and an exact angle of 12,394 every time, regardless of initial speed and angle. A long jump landing is easiest for this because long jumps have by far the most landing frames of any landing. But any landing can work. While landing from the long jump, you want to be holding down leftish to land in a decent position and avoid falling into the water. Now you want to turn 2048 units clockwise. There are a lot of ways to do this, including crawling for 1 frame, but the easiest thing is to just keep holding down left and let yourself walk for 1 frame and then jump. If you overshoot, you can always fix it just by doing more turning or crawling, since these always max out at 2048 units per frame. Once you have your angle of 10,346, you need to try to get into a pretty specific position. In theory, anything in this large triangle, as shown, can work, but it's easiest to say somewhere in this 4-sided area, as shown now. Pay attention to Mario's shoes, shadow, and butt. The easiest way to describe the ideal area is just to say that you want to be on the left-hand steep polygon, which you can see from your shadow, with a height of at least negative 84 and a Z value between 750 and 764-ish. The close Mario Cam really helps you visualize your positions quite accurately. Now it's time to do the BLJ. Start by pressing Z, up, and start at the same time to pause, just like for the BitFS PU setup. Unfortunately, this does need to be at a decent magnitude, so you either have to flick fast or buffer it with a pause or a crouch or something. Now you hold down and press A twice with a cadence of 6 frames to long jump. You will always land with the exact same angle and speed by doing this. Now, while you keep holding down, try to pause as quickly as possible after you land. Note that since this is a steep slope, the landing frames will not actually affect your speed, so your pause frame doesn't matter. Use this pause to turn your joystick up and perform 1 pause BLJ. Now go back to neutral. Again, the cadence doesn't matter here because of the steep slope. Now you will have a speed of negative 18.725 every time. You are now on the nice speed neutral sequence, which looks like this. As long as you keep doing BLJs with a neutral joystick, you will stay on this speed sequence. Okay, now we do 7 BLJs to get to 244-ish speed, and we want to get into a position somewhere around here. More precisely, between about X 2070 and 2270, which you can do visually using pause buffers. Now we have the hardest part, which is 6 single frame pause BLJs. A single frame pause BLJ means that you press A or start or both on a certain frame. Then you have a frame with no inputs, and then you have a frame with A and start. You keep a neutral joystick here, but for absolutely optimal consistency, you can hold down on the first, second, or third pause BLJ. I'm not actually sure which one is best for consistency, but it reduces your chances of hitting the out of bounds under the sandy path by a lot. Again, it's optional, but I'd highly recommend doing it if it doesn't affect your pause BLJ consistency too much. After the 6 pause BLJs, you should have around 2700 speed and still be on the sandy path. From here it's just 2 more neutral BLJs, and on the final one you can start holding down at the end of the landing. This needs to be on the last possible frame or the frame before, so that would make it a 2-frame window. Usually you will have a 2-frame window, but occasionally it might be 1 frame, depending on your position. From here you try to find an angle of roughly 12,000, which is just slightly left of down and not too precise. Instead you can also just hold down on the joystick and press R, and 4 frames later press A to get a similar angle. If you have the correct speed and angle, you will jump straight into the warp. Okay, so before I leave I want to show you some things that indicate that something has gone wrong and what to do to avoid these things. This will be in text, so it's easier for you to use it as a reference. Alright, so those were the most important mistakes and errors that can occur in this setup. So that's about it. I hope this can be useful at some point in 120 if someone is crazy enough to go for it. Thanks to my patrons for supporting my SM64 research. John W., Neon Fuzz, Widit, Decca, Runner Cam, Dan Park, Bedronis, Brett S., Hayes, Drogi, Tabascoth, and Skazi.